Hello, this is Pauline Jennings. Welcome to Musician Talk. Well, I'm excited to say I have a new sponsor here to tell us about the solution his company is providing for COVID-19 testing. His name is Peter Schuster, and he is the president of Neuromix. Pete, tell us about Neuromix.
Pauline, I'm delighted to be here today to share my story with you and your radio audience. As far as Neuromix, we're a 16-year-old company. We were heavily involved in making cell-based assays in media. Because it's highly regulated, it was very easy for us to pivot and have the proper certifications to make virus transport media and COVID-19 testing kits.
Wonderful. Tell us more about that and how that works.
It's elegantly simple, Pauline. We make the media, and the media is designed to safely transport patient samples to sites for testing.
Who do you sell this to?
We sell it everywhere from a nursing home in Seattle to New York City. We just shipped out 2,000 kits to New Jersey today. We're as far north as International Falls, Minnesota. We sold to a hospital network up there, and we're south of the border.
Wow. So the work that you are doing at Neuromix is very, very important. Thank you for doing it. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about this product?
I can be reached at 612-801-1007. I usually don't give out my number, but we're better together. The other way people can find us is our website is neuromix.com.
Well, thank you so much for doing this work. Thank you for sponsoring Musician Talk, and thank you for joining me. Hello, this is Pauline Jennings. Welcome to Musician Talk. Interviews with people you know, people you've heard, and people you've heard about. A collection of candid, casual, and lively conversations with local area musicians about how music matters in their lives, our community, and beyond. You'll hear discussions with up-and-comers and those that have been performing for years. So today's interview is the second part of Curt Johnson's interview that I started last week. I'm going to go ahead and start with his bio as I did last week for those of you that missed the first half. After that, I will hop right into the second part of the interview. So enjoy, and happy to have you with me. Today's interview is with Curt Johnson, who has lived in Northfield for 4 years, so a relative newcomer to the area. However, he's gotten so involved, it's as if he's been here for many more years. Before moving here, he lived in many places, including Boston, as an undergrad at the very impressive Berkeley College of Music, and later Chicago, where he lived for 25 years. We're very lucky that he decided to settle in Northfield when he came to Minnesota. Since moving here, he's been heavily involved with the Guild as music director, pianist, actor, and singer. I met him when he came on board for the Guild Catastrophe shows that I produced. From this experience, I know firsthand what a wonderful musician he is. Extremely versatile, seems any genre comes easily for him. And that's not all he does. By day, he works for a Fortune 500 company that delivers technology for the banking industry. In fact, most of the local banks in Northfield are running their software. He lives with his partner and soulmate, Lori. And when asked about his experience living here, he says he could never have imagined a community so full of people who are ready, able, and willing to engage creatively. How nice. So now, let's talk with Curt Johnson. As an adult, moving to Northfield, what you have found out about the music scene and how it has enhanced or not your life and affected your relationships here.
Yeah. So a lot of my family's here. I mentioned my daughters are in Chicago, much closer to their mom. I moved here to be with Lori, and she's really my soulmate. So grateful for her. And this is all her fault. I'll just put it
Lori.
And I'll explain why. I didn't know anybody here, and she certainly introduced me to friends and colleagues here in Northfield. Basically, I'd not quite been here a year, and we were in Blue Monday and on our way out, and that big bulletin board with all those posters on it. And she said, look, they're doing Fiddler on the Roof here. And I hadn't even been to a Guild production since moving here. It just wasn't on my radar. And she said, you should audition. And I was like, I've never acted on stage. I've played piano on stage, but I'm not an actor. Well, you should try it. I'm like, really? Do you know what that's, I've been played in the pit. I know what the hours are like. And she said, yeah, you should do it. And so I did. And I got the part of Model the Tailor, the one part that really resonated for me. And I met Ellen Odegaard, who's one of my dearest, closest friends now. And the corollary to that is I met all of my other friends in the world as a result of doing that show, and then doing another and doing 2 shows with you. My entire community now, I'm surrounded by people that I absolutely adore, that whom absolutely just love to do things creatively. Excellence is always the goal, but it's not the end all. It's let's be creative together. And I could not have imagined that would be part of my world in moving here. I had no idea.
That's huge. That's really huge. You're not an old guy, but you're not necessarily a young guy. And to have that happen, I mean, I'm not either. And to have, this is an awakening time for me too. Yeah. And to have that happen in this time of life is what a gift, what a joy, what a blessing, all those things wrapped up into one. That's wonderful. The only thing I want to correct you on is that you had been an actor because you played the fiddle on stage for Fiddler on the Roof when you were how old? So
irony of that, and I still have the original program from that, and I brought it to dress rehearsal week to show some of the kids that were in the show, because it was 45 years to the day that we launched Fiddler here in Northfield from when I was in Fiddler in Hibbing. I'm not sure if I learned anything about acting in the original.
You don't think so?
I learned how to climb up on a roof and down off of a roof.
So my assumption is then that entree into the guild and the people there in the musical got you plugged into the musical scene in Northfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But part of that came about because, again, I kind of put myself out there in different ways. And I'll give you one example. Sam Ryden was doing kind of his farewell concert at the guild last August before heading off to college in Memphis. And I asked Rob, his dad, would you like me to videotape the show? Rob said, yeah, that would be great. And I figured it'd be one for the archives, given what I expect his path to be. And,
right.
And so I said, who's doing sound? What's going on? Because I wanted to capture the audio, in a high, kind of a multi-track way. And he said, Ray Coudray, here, get in touch with them. So I called Ray. Ray and I didn't know each other. And so I showed up kind of ahead of the dress rehearsal, sound check kind of thing. And to put my cameras up and chat with Ray about getting audio. And true to form, Ray just started me asking questions about me. And I said, this is kind of what else I do. And he said, well, we're doing this Tom Petty tribute in November. I need a second keyboard player for my group. Would you be interested? And I said, sure, that sounds great. And that's really one thing that has led to me playing in these kind of out in the town situations. Again, it's one of those things where you meet one person and that leads to meeting others and having new experiences. That's another door that got opened. I was really happy with the musical theater and the variety show, those doors being open. But now this opportunity to be sort of a freelance gigging musician, it's just been another great chapter opened.
Well, Ray is a great guy and he's a very generous person. And so if you hadn't been a musician, so many of those doors wouldn't have been opened. It would have been so much more difficult to have that network that you have.
Yeah, because I'm not sure what my entree would have been. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't have been happy. It just means that my path here would have had a very different trajectory.
Curt, it's time for another song. Could you set this one up for us, please?
Sure. This one is one that I have returned to every Memorial Day weekend. It's a Gino Vanelli piece called None So Beautiful as the Brave. And talks about a mother whose young son sleeps all alone. Well, where he's sleeping is in a cemetery. Oh. And and there's a girl, a brown-eyed girl in the cemetery, mourning, the person in her life that's gone, and so it just grabs me every time, and I've never grown tired of it. And I've shared a video in recent years. I've shared a video of me doing it in a church setting. The audio was pretty terrible for that. It was my own doing. It wasn't somebody else's audio, it was mine. And I thought, here's a chance to introduce people to this song. A lot of people know Gino Vanelli. The guy's still touring. He's still writing. He's an amazing, amazing man. But yeah, None So Beautiful as the Brave.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, there's a cross on a hill where the ragweed has grown, where a mother's young son sleeps all alone, all for the land that he dreamed he could save. Oh, there's none so beautiful as the brave. Oh, there's a stone in the meadow with all the weight of the world, where the flowers are watered by the brown eyes of a girl. She cries for the life that her one true love gave. Oh, there's none so beautiful as the brave, none so beautiful as the boy who cries freedom, none so beautiful as the voice that carries far, none so strong as a love beyond all reason, that fears no evil, undaunted by the dark or any other man's heart. Oh, there's a cross on a hill where no steeple bells ring, a shrine with no name where little children sing to the rhythm that rocks us from the cradle to the grave. Oh, there's none so beautiful, yeah, there's none so beautiful. Oh, there's none so beautiful as the brave. That's a hard one to get through.
Yeah, I bet. Wow. Wow. Powerful. Very powerful. Undaunted by the dark or any man's heart. Is that it?
Undaunted by the dark or any other man's heart.
Yeah.
And I kind of interpret that as those who oppose you.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the definition of bravery is to be undaunted by that. To yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It's not an easy song to sing, not for emotional reasons, but also the intervals are kind of crazy. It's very unexpected and beautiful in that way.
They are. One of the things I love about the piece is Gino's just got these really funky ideas for chord progressions that I because they work.
They work, but they're so unexpected and surprising, which makes your ear perks up, goes, okay, well, I didn't expect that note to go up there. And to that, that's really one. Yeah. I like that a lot. You know, one thing that you brought up when we were discussing your bio, when you talked about Berkeley, and this will close it up with this, that you felt like you were in kind of the middle of the class. When you had written to me about your bio, you mentioned that there are a lot of people there that were better than you. And that's a nice place to be and a good place to be. You weren't daunted by that. Speaking of being daunted, you learned from it. It lifted you up. Tell me about that.
I was pretty intimidated.
Okay.
Both to be a new student and your first day at Berkeley. I don't know if they still do it the same way there, but they have a rating system 1 through 9. It's like reading, comping, improvisation, and maybe ensemble, or I forget what the 4 are. So you'll meet people at the university of wherever. They say, what's your major? They say, what are your
What's your number? Oh, that would be intimidating. Yikes.
And I entered, I got all 4s when I got there. I only know 2 people that had all 9s, and both of them are world-renowned professional pianists now. The folks that had 7s, I was in awe of. And if I could be playing with folks that had all 7s, I was going to pick up some stuff. So you tended to just play with the folks between 5s and 7s. And I got into the neighborhood of the 7s by the time I finished. But I think for anybody, you have to get beyond that initial intimidation. If everybody's heart and mind is in the same place, if you're coming together to play because you want to make something great together, then everybody needs to get out of their own way and just kind of let go and be where you're at. I think initially that's hard for people to figure out, to sort of get out of your own way. But it opens a door, and I'll give you an example that will be near and dear to your heart. The first time we did Catastrophe together, almost 2 years ago. That first night that we sat down in a group setting with Steve on the kid, and Steve was music director, and I was pianist. For me, we clicked from moment one. And all of a sudden, I think Steve's just a world-class drummer. And so the experience for me is one of being elevated up a little bit. It's one of fitting into a larger thing. And I have to be open to that. But then what happens when you play with somebody that's that good is they kind of bring you into their world, and it's very safe. And all of a sudden you've got more available to you, creativity wise to express. So.
You said a lot of things there. They're very compelling. I mean, not just my husband's name and he is world class. I'll agree with that. But no, the trust you have to allow that to happen, to step out of your own way, which I see as putting your ego aside, or the judge in your head that you have to put aside. And if you're an improviser, you've learned how to do that, because if you're judging what you're doing, you cannot improvise. And then that whole thing of just being lifted up by people that are better than you, rather than going home and being upset that you're not there yet. That of the joy of trying to get there and living in that place where you want to so bad. Just learn from everything that's around you musically and creatively. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. You learned what it was like to be the recipient of being in a group where you're learning from others.
Yeah.
And now you're at a place where you're very, very accomplished musician, Do you pay that forward? Do you have opportunities to be able to, I think you do probably in the theater, but I want you to talk about how you pay that forward to lift others up in your boat.
Anybody that's hung around Catastrophe, for example, knows that my favorite thing as a pianist, my favorite thing is to accompany vocalists.
Mm.
And at Berkeley, I was an aberration in that most pianists are like, you know. I've always had such tremendous joy about it because you learn song interpretation. For one, if your ears are open, you can learn things. And what I have found in my adult life now, from leading music in church and having young adults involved, is that ability to just talk about, why are we even doing this? What does this song even mean? What are those lyrics? Just like you keyed in on Undaunted by the Dark or Any Other Man's Heart and connected with why that's an important phrase. I'm always talking with vocalists about what are we trying to say and how are we trying to say it. And a show like Catastrophe is an incredible opportunity for that, because not everybody's coming in as this professional, but they are coming in wanting to do something really great.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could ask any of the vocalists that I've worked with. I think you could ask any of them, and they would agree that that's where I kind of will dig in and say things. Well, why are you even singing this? What does it mean? And why did they do this in this phrase? And then let's connect that to what we're doing musically then. Find the emotion in what's being shared.
I hear that, and I double down.
Definitely.
Curt, what a great conversation we've had. I've learned so much about you. You're a lovely, lovely person and a tremendous accompanist. So thank you for joining me today and telling me some of your story and sharing with us.
Thank you. And back at you, Pauline. It's been an absolute joy to be with you today.
So one more thing I have to ask of you. I would love it if you would take us out with some music.
There's your off the cuff.
Thank you so much for joining Musician Talk. Thank you, Curt, so much for being with me today. Thank you to Neuromics for the good work that they're doing out there for COVID-19 testing. Thank you to Pete Schuster, the owner of Neuromics. And thank you, audience, for being here. And you have a great evening.